This is As I Am ASMR. Today you can see that we're continuing our painting, and the darker blue has been completed. I'm deciding on a different shade today. I think there is another blue shade, but I've decided to pick something a little different. Typically, when I am picking the colors that I'm going to paint, I just kind of start from one corner of the painting and then find a solid color. So as you saw there, I picked number 26, and it's like a brownish color, like a tannish brown. You'll quickly notice, as I have in other videos noted, that these paints are really thin. And by thin, what I mean is, as I start to paint, it doesn't really cover the lines. It doesn't cover the numbering, like the number 26 there in that little piece that I'm painting. As I paint, you'll see that it just doesn't cover. And instead, I have to do, whether it be 2 or 3 coats, just to have it thick enough that the numbers and lines don't show up in the actual painting itself. But I'm happy enough to do that. As I said, in previous paintings that I've done, I've actually had paint be too thick where it doesn't spread very easily, and I've had to actually somewhat water it down or thin it out with product. This one is the other end of the spectrum. It goes on super duper smooth, but it doesn't have the opaqueness, I suppose, or whatever we want to call it, to cover the letters. It looks like it's doing a good job right now, but as it starts to dry, you quickly notice that it's just not covering the lines and the numbers. Pardon me. I apologize again. My heater is kicked in, so you can hear that in the background most likely. I do try to enhance my audio as much as possible when that's in the background. But if you do hear it, I do apologize. So, anyways, there's that. As I've said again in previous videos, as I paint, I find it very calming. If you are watching my videos and you find that my voice or watching me paint is calming for you and you want to paint along, let me know if there's a specific paint by number you want me to do, and maybe I can pick it up and we can paint it together. I know this progression is probably taking a really long time, but as a parent of a young child, finding the time to actually sit down and paint is one part, and then finding time to sit down and edit any videos that I've recorded is another part, and then finding time to sit down and do voiceovers is another part. Actually finding the time to do the voiceovers probably is the hardest, because I have to have a quiet enough environment to do this, and any parents out there with small children know that those times are few and far between. Excuse me. So I know that, I should say, I know there's not a lot of people watching right now. I think I have 1 or 2 views on my videos, but it's been, maybe I'm not super popular, or maybe I never will be, but I do it. If one person watches and enjoys it, well then, that's great. But like I said, the progression of these videos has been very slow. I started this at the end of April. Today is actually the first couple of days of June. I'm actually doing this voiceover, I think it's June 3rd, 2024. posted today. I can't say for sure because, like I said, I have to re-add the clip and add the soundtrack or the sounds to it, the audio clip. So I hope it gets posted today, but I will make no promises. And the actual date of this painting I have listed as May the 3rd. So it's exactly 1 month after I painted this section. And sometimes that's even different because I think one of the paintings that I did, I listed it as, I think, May 1st. And I think I had actually painted it in April, and it was only in May 1st that I was able to combine the clips into one video. And that was the last one that you just watched, or if you haven't, the one previous to this where I did the dark blues. So, pardon me, I have a little tickle in my throat. Just 1 second, I'll get a drink. Sorry about that. Yeah, so sometimes I don't get the chance to actually sit down and combine the clips or what have you. There's so many sounds happening in my house right now, I apologize, but as I said, this is as I am ASMR. I don't like to change things if I can. This is life. I know ASMR is kind of like a, oh my gosh, it has to be so set in its way, in the sense of what it is. But I like sounds as they are. Yeah, I do look for certain things when I listen to ASMR, but if I'm a person who likes calming images like painting and things like that, this might be the video for me, and maybe you need to mute me out. That's okay too. I have no issue with that. If you're a person who likes the sound of my voice, or the tone of my voice, or the cadence, or what have you, that's great. But this is how it is. There might be the sound of my fridge. There might be me having a little tickle in my throat. There might be sounds of maybe my dog walking around, which shouldn't be an issue, but now that I've said it, I'm sure it will be. So this is as I am. If my life becomes one where I am more able to do more advanced types of sounds and recordings and those sorts of things, or if I find I'm getting a large amount of followers or people watching that are requesting something specific, well, that will be a time for me to consider changing my game plan. But as it stands, this is as I am. So, I apologize. As I said earlier in this video, you could see some of the numbers in the previous colored browns are coming through. You can see the 26s. So as I said, it's very thin, very, very thin paint. Goes on super smooth. It's actually really nice to paint with. But in seeing how thin it is, it just creates more work. So you have to ask yourself, as someone who does paint by number, or, you know, are a little more creative in your own way, would you rather paint one section very easily and notice that it's not fully covered and have to go back and repaint? Or would you rather have to really take your time with a thicker paint and try to smear it in, I guess, as best as possible, or thin it down a little bit with a thinner, or if you're using certain types of paints, you can use water. Which would you rather do? Because I'm kind of stuck in the middle. I can't thick these paints up, or thicken them, I should say. And sometimes I wish I could, but, you know, in order to thicken it, I guess you'd have to add some sort of product that I'm unaware of, or add perhaps a thicker base, like a white or something. And I'm not into changing the colors of these suggested ones that it came with. So if I add white, of course that's going to lighten it. And in fact, some of the mixtures that you'll see here, there's numbers like 17 over 60 or 50 or what have you, 17 over 74, those are adding either whites or blacks or different shades, and it's often white to white it down. So if I add white, I'm changing the color that it should be. So I don't want to do that. But as I say earlier, I'm kind of in between on whether I would rather paint very easily. Like you can see here, I'm just flicking the paint on these like so easily, but you can see that the 26 is not covered. So I really like how easy and smooth this is, but it's kind of a pain in the bum when you have to go back over what you already did. It kind of, for me, takes the joy out of it. Like, you see that it's done, but it's not done well enough that you can't see the numbers, so you have to go back over it. So I think I'm the person who would probably, I'll say this now, tomorrow might be different, but I probably would rather have a thicker paint that I have to thin down. You can see here in this slight issue is that the 26, I'm stopping because I'm confused, the 26 that I was painting goes around and it connects into a 26 over 61, but there's no line where that stops. So I've created my own stop point, and I guess that's a blending point. So once I get to 26 over 61, which will be in a much later video, I'll have to feather that color out, I suppose, because I think that might be either a darker brown or a lighter brown, and I will just have to feather it out a little bit. So that section appears to be done, and I've moved on to what appears to be a tree of some sort. There wasn't a whole lot of brown in this painting, but there was enough. But as you'll see, as this video continues, when I'm done with the brown and what I think I'm finished with, I will just, the paint is so thin that it just dries in no time. So I just go back and I paint the sections over again. Some of these spots are smaller than others. Some are, fairly big. This painting doesn't have terribly small spots. I have had paintings where I've actually used a toothpick dipped in paint to actually apply color. But this is not one of those. I think this is, it's very nice. It's a good quality. It's on a board. It came with the brushes, it came with the paints, it came with a way to hang it, all those wonderful things, and it came from an art store. So I guess it was assumed that would be a really nice one, and I have no issues with it, with the exception of the paint being a little thin. It's nice, but it's not terribly hard to do, we'll say. And maybe I should preface that by saying I don't find it terribly hard to do. Someone who might have, mobility issues or arthritis in their hands or something of that nature may find this very, very difficult because maybe these spaces are too small for them, or maybe they have a tremor in their hand and it just, I don't know, like, they can't stay within the line, so they need bigger spaces. In my grandmother's later years of life, when she was in her late 80s and early 90s, she did enjoy coloring. You can buy those coloring books for calming and relaxation. And she really did like them. And she found, of course, crayons were no good for her. She liked lead pencils, but found sharpening them quite difficult, so we bought her fine point markers. But we needed to buy her the coloring books with large spaces, and I know it kind of irked her a little bit that she couldn't get the pretty mandalas that she wanted, or the beautiful butterflies I am used to ones with smaller pieces. This paintbrush that I'm using is actually one that did not come with this set. This is one that I bought from an art supply store. But they did, the art did come with some paintbrushes. I do use them from time to time, but the higher quality ones, I find that they're nicer, they're smoother, they have a better bristle to them. I guess it's the hair or the fur that they're made out of, I don't know. So that was the end of the amount of 26, that brown color that I found on this entire painting. Currently, I'm sure as time goes on and I start to paint again, I'll find more 26 and I will fill it in, don't worry. So as you can see, I'm going back and I'm painting back over where you can clearly see the numbers are there. You can see them clear as day through the brown that is dried. And it was a little bit shocking to me how different it dried. It's dried so much darker. Blotchy, yes, it's 100% blotchy, but it dried so much darker than, the color that goes on it. And I know that that's kind of a thing with paint, that it will dry darker. Your second coat, your third coat, they go on much easier because you don't have to worry about the edges nearly as much. So I'm kind of like flying through these much easier than the first round. But you can see in almost every section where I'm repainting, or I will repaint, you can see the 26 as clear as day. So I am painting over the top of it again. I'm not terribly particular with, making sure that every stroke is absolutely perfect, because as I said, with the bigger parts painting, it's, pardon me, I had a little itch there. It's not as, I don't know, I just feel like you can just fly through it quicker, which can also be a bit of a detriment, I suppose, because I kind of get feeling really free and I just start flying through, and then I'm like, oh dear, I've gone over a line or what have you. So with the paintings, with the smaller pieces, I'm very careful not to go over lines, and I'm much slower. But I think this one, where the pieces are so big, I'm kind of like flick through it as fast as I can. And not because I don't want to paint, but as I said a few minutes ago, painting it once was good, but having to go back over a color because it's not thick enough, I don't know, kind of irks me a little bit, I suppose. So maybe that's why I'm much faster this time around. I mean, it has been painted once, so it's not like you have to make sure that every area is done, but it's so much quicker this time around, and sometimes that can cause you to be a little, I guess, too free and make a mistake. I do apologize for my coughing, because I know that some people are listening, or maybe one day listening, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is ASMR, why is this girl coughing so much? I do have a tickle in my throat today. Maybe I should say that at the beginning of the video. Some people are like, oh, this is not the video for me. So I apologize. But I can't apologize for being who I am. And for this channel, you get exactly who I am. I've only had, I think, one comment on the videos yet. And at this point, I'd love to have 1 million people watch and make suggestions or comments, or, I'm pretty thick-skinned when it comes to people saying stuff, and if you want to send over your critiques, I'm okay think this one's my third video. I have no subscribers. I'm a small town girl. I don't expect a whole lot of people to be like, oh my gosh, this is the person we want to watch. I'm not a YouTube influencer by any means. I'm doing this simply because I like to relax by painting. I listen to ASMR while I'm painting. It's kind of my downtime, my decompression, those sorts of things, when I can get the time, as I said earlier. So I feel like if that works for me, well then maybe somebody watching me paint will find it as relaxing or as decompressing. Maybe there are people who, like me as a child, was really into Bob Ross, getting up, Sunday mornings as a kid and watching The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross, and that's listening to that man's calm voice, and everything about what he was talking about was so positive, and watching his brushstrokes was so soothing. So maybe I'm no Bob Ross, as I've said multiple times, but watching someone paint can be calming, I suppose, because I found it calming. So if I can help somebody else calm, that's great. So I'm not really doing this for someone in particular. I'm doing it because it worked for me, and if I'm painting anyways, well then, I suppose I can take an extra few minutes to record and make a little video. They take time, but as I said, I'm not going anywhere. Might as well do something with my time. I don't really know if there's anything people want to know about me. I've prefaced that I'm a small town girl, but if there's something you guys would like to know, or something you would like to hear, or anything at all, I'm up for suggestions, I'm up for critiques, whatever you guys would like to say. I know that we're nearing the end of this video because I'm almost done the second coat and I don't move on to another color or into another video, so I'm almost done. I want to thank you for watching, if you in fact have watched. If you haven't been here before, thanks for coming along. Feel free to watch my other videos. If you are watching, 100% leave me a comment. I really would like to hear if people are here. But until the next video, please be well, and we'll see you, hopefully, in the next one.